been feeling hopeless till you came around, came around.
Hi there, wig lovers. This is Heather at HairKittyKitty, formerly known as CysterWigs, but still known on the socials as CysterWigs. Whatever, it's a thing. I'm still figuring it out. Anyhow, I wanted to let you know that this is the second part of a two-part video. So the reason why I cut it into two sections is because as I was editing it, I realized that it was going on way too long. And part of that was because this second part, this video here, and by the way, if you haven't seen the first part, I encourage you to watch it because it's a really nice setup for this entire video. But as I'm going through the motions of the get ready with me and I'm styling the wig and I'm doing my makeup, I can't help but give tips as I'm doing it, and that really does elongate the runtime of the video, but I feel like it's useful, so I didn't want to edit any of that stuff out. So without further ado, here's that second parter with all that personal juicy information, good tips and tricks. It's a full-on hairstyling video. It's going to be a ton of fun. Enjoy, everybody. All right, so let's get down to it. This is my Vaughn Molten Copper R that I wear when I'm in Zoom calls and stuff. It looks really nice and vibrant. You can see it's kind of doing that clumpy thing that heat-friendly synthetics do at the bottom. So about once every 2 weeks, I like to take a flat iron to it. I'm letting the iron get a little hot, which, by the way, is not going to be super hot. You don't need it to get hot. You just need the hair to get warmed up so that way you can manipulate it with your hands, or in this case, we're going to use a combination of my hand and this particular boar's hair brush. You got to be really careful with these. You do not want to detangle with this ever on a synthetic wig, okay? But it's really great for helping to hold the hair in place while it cools, because that's really what you need here. You need to hold it in place while it cools. Let's make it around 300, sounds about right. While that's doing its thing, I'm gonna do a couple of things. First thing I'm gonna do is spritz my face. We're gonna use a little bit of this Tatcha Luminous Dewy Skin Mist. This stuff is great. But you need a second to let it dry. And I get kind of carried away with it because it feels really nice. I'm also going to put on some plumping lip balm. Now, I have had filler in the past, but I haven't had that done since before CVID. So, like before the pandemic hit, I was last time I got filler. And I'm actually fine with the way it is now. Like, I don't want to be one of those people that keeps blowing it up like a Bratz doll, you know, because they didn't realize that they were overfilling. I can tell just by the limited amount that I had done, which was a very conservative amount to begin with. Like, I can already tell that this isn't going to dissolve the way that they told me it would, because it's still pretty much there. But that being said, I find that it's easier to apply my lipstick if I use plumping lip balm as a primer. I like Vaughn because she's easy. So I'm just going to detangle her, starting at the bottoms with a wide tooth comb. I don't know if you can see. The hair got a little bit springy. That's okay, because we are going to take a flat iron to straighten that bit out. Okay. Very minimal shedding here, just a couple strands, which is pretty cool considering I've been wearing this for months. Like literally, like, I think we're going on 8 months. I think part of it's because I rotate 2 of them out at the same time, so I always have a backup. All right, let's take our flat iron to it. Like I said, you can do this on your head even. It doesn't really have to be anything that elaborate. You just want to go really, really slowly because the goal, again, is to warm up the hair. Because see how it's kind of steaming a little bit? Especially at the ends. Remember that this is not a natural fiber. This is heat-friendly synthetic. So really the danger is that the hair itself will melt, but I mean, you would have to have this so incredibly hot to get that to happen. But technically it's possible. I think that really it's just accidentally pulling and distorting the hair is a big problem with these, particularly when the hair is warm, which is why I'm not really going to use this boar's head brush to detangle. I'm just using it to smooth the hair. And I like to do this bit prior to my makeup because if there's a lot of static, particularly this time of year, I want to be able to get it a little wet because that water will discharge some of that static before I wear it, so it doesn't start clumping up immediately. So huge difference already. This part already looks more natural. Very, very nice, and it feels better. So I'm just going to do that all the way around in sections. So, yeah, I started the beginning of the year realizing that the company was going to have to go through a radical change, and that radical change meant at the minimum, and then, you know, how was I to know how far it would need to go? But at a minimum, we were going to have to get rid of the name brands, most of them. I mean, we may bring some of them back someday, but I'm not really eager to drop ship ever again. And that's because, you know, I'm capable of doing my own business analytics and forecasting and things of that nature. And so it was easy for me to see where this is heading. I was a drop shipper. I couldn't afford to buy an entire warehouse of these name brand products because they were too expensive. I mean, they were basically charging the distributors retail prices and then acting like that wasn't the case. So I started buying directly from their factories, which is where the Wigs Forever line in particular is made. But the thing is, if you are trying to make a living in 2023 moving forward as a drop shipping business, make sure that it's not already oversaturated. Make sure that there's actually a need for what it is that you want to sell. Because at this point, and take this as free advice from an expert of sorts, right? Like, if you can't differentiate your own products, your business will die on the vine because of the way that e-commerce operates. It's just everyone's competing for the exact same audience share for that product. And you can't just market to people who aren't interested in it to get them to buy, right? Because they're going to go for like $20 Amazon wigs. You have to target specifically medical buyers and people who like medical wigs, which is a much, much smaller group of people. And so it's crucial in that kind of situation that you own your customer journey, that you have the ability to design multiple customer journeys, so that way you have a very clear, helpful sort of marketing funnel that brings people to your products and your properties. But you have to assess their need, you have to understand how to appeal to them, you have to bring something special to the table, or else they'll go somewhere else. That is especially the point when you're not differentiating yourself by selling different products, which is what I am currently doing with HairKittyKitty.com. But on CysterWigs, it wasn't differentiated enough. And the other problem is you have very little control over customer experience. That was something that I fought up against all the time because I went to school specifically for that sort of thing. Like, I have a lot of training in it. And it's very frustrating to be told exactly what prices I have to charge, what I can and cannot do with my return policies, while other stores that they own get away with murder. Like, it's crazy sauce. And I realized that, you know, I needed more control over those aspects of the company, and that's okay. At the end of the day, we ended up having to put a lot of money into inventory without a whole lot of money to throw into marketing. And so we've been trying to figure out how to get around that problem. It is slowly correcting itself, but it's happening much more slowly than I think any of us would have anticipated, simply because it's just really hard to find an audience. So one of the things that I had to do was go back to a day job. There's no shame in that game, right? I worked for months in preparation for doing this, by the way, to make it more possible for us to have our own wig website with our own products only. All right, I think that's probably good enough for now. She's feeling pretty good. So I'm going to just let her cool off over here on a flat surface. So I said a couple minutes ago, like, that it's kind of a bad thing when you have a lot of money tied up in inventory and you don't have a lot to spend on marketing. What this comes down to is a lack of dry powder, as in you're heavily leveraged and your money is tied up either in hard assets or debts. In our case, it was tied up in both. And this is a problem because you need that marketing. It's incredibly crucial if you're in e-commerce business in general, because, I mean, as just a rule of thumb, right, the barrier to entry to getting a front end up and running with a really basic commerce back end, you know, using WooCommerce, Shopify, etc., that's pretty easy to achieve. The barrier to entry there has been greatly reduced by these companies. They're kind of like heroes in this regard, at least for companies that would struggle with their own front end development. But what they don't know, a lot of these companies that buy into that sort of dream of owning their own e-commerce site, is that once you establish that you're going to jump into e-commerce as a sales channel, in, you know, meta sales channel, you basically are signing up to become a marketing company. Congrats. Did you know that that was the case? If you launch a small business online, you are now a full-time marketer. And you have to learn the ropes of the strategy of marketing very quickly. And one of the first things you learn is that you need a lot of dry powder. You need a lot of cash on hand that isn't tied up in debt and inventory and that sort of thing. And we knew that as well. That's why it was so painful and was a really painstaking process, because literally we had to do it to buy in at this level with these factories, get the kind of price breaks we needed to keep our prices relatively static on the website without raising them. Inflation was like, what, 7% or something like that last year? Really, really high. And so our prices theoretically should have risen 7%. We didn't raise them. All right. Time for makeup. This is Tatcha's The Silk Canvas. It's a solid version of their popular liquid primer. And I'm only going to put it on parts that are dry. That whole mess though, I mean, that was a risk, a huge risk, and it resulted in us essentially having to restructure parts of the company. Now, in full disclosure, I owned the social media part of things. I owned the social media channels, I owned the branding, I owned the IP, I mean, I owned all the content, so that kind of stuff was my contribution and how I owned things. But he owned the actual e-commerce store. At the beginning of 2022, I realized that I had to stop taking a draw in order to accommodate this mission of launching our own stuff and getting off of the name brand products. I wanted to add for context here that I left the business and worked on buying John out for the second half of 2021 and the entire first half of 2022. To make this a little bit easier to follow, let me just lay it out this way. I started this adventure with John's cooperation and with the help of my husband, because, I mean, I'm very transparent about what I want and why I'm doing things, and you know, they know me, so they were on board, though it took a while. So this started in the latter half of 2021 and led all the way through to the second half of 2022. So it took a full year to do this transition. And during that period, I couldn't take a draw, as in I stopped working for CysterWigs and started looking for a day job, and I'll talk about those in a moment, but that's ultimately why I went back into the workforce. It was so I could stop relying on the CysterWigs pay to just basically invest in myself by working for free to get that stuff off the ground and taking a day job, so that way, you know, I could still have health insurance and all that stuff, because I mean, health insurance when you're self-employed is very expensive, and when you stop paying yourself, that doesn't help. When you sell name brand products, name brand wigs specifically, you don't have control over your own pricing, which means that, you know, arguably you don't really have a business. And that's because if you can't control your pricing, you have very little control over your business, period. And it's very difficult to actually grow it. In that scenario, you need to be able to optimize the pricing for your customer base, you know, for seasonality, for supply levels, for a whole bunch of reasons. So that's a huge deal, what I just mentioned there. But then there's this other issue, which in my opinion is also a huge deal. As you can see, I wear wigs. I wear wigs because I am balding, and I've been balding since I was 17. It's a natural thing. It's hormonal. I can't really do anything about it, but I can wear wigs, which is pretty sweet, because wigs are great. They're like an extension of your persona. They help you embody yourself a little bit more and show yourself off to the world in a way where you can feel more comfortable. Like that is a more true representation of who you are than what biology gave you. So I'm a huge fan of wigs, obviously. I own a store. I've been doing this for over a decade. You know, I'm probably preaching to the converted. You're probably into wigs too. And so it's from that point of view that I have to tell you that I have historically had a very big problem with return recirculation. Now, in full disclosure, as people who've worked for me in the past can probably attest, we did not recirculate returns except for once on a blue moon if it was really obvious that that particular style had not been removed from the box, for example, or if it was a highly coveted item, like let's say it was a brand new drop from like Raquel Welch or John Renault in a really hot color like Shaded Biscuit or something, where the supply is gone, like before it even hits the market because the pre-sale completely sold out. and I have one or two that came back as returns, we would usually give people the option to take them instead of waiting on back order, because I feel like that's just right. I mean, I would want that if I were waiting on back order for a style like that. I would want someone to give me the option at least. So, I mean, don't want to make it sound like we never did that, but we always tried to do it in an ethical, transparent fashion. And so, other than those situations, we never recirculated returns. We would put them up on a clearance website or in a special section. When you drop ship name brand wigs, there's a huge problem right away that you will notice. And we noticed it from the first handful of orders we ever had at CysterWigs. And that's that you can't vouch for the integrity of the supply because the suppliers take in returns from all over their distributor network. So the retailers can send back returns. They don't accept returns from the public directly. And what they would do is, in some cases, some of the vendors, not all, some are very much do not do this, but some definitely do, where they will take in the returns and they will basically say they inspected them and then put them back on the market and they will ship them out like they're new. So if you have access to websites that show the inventory levels of a website, a way that you can tell that this is happening is if the item has been sold out for a period of time and then maybe one or two come back in stock. If you can actually see that it's only one or two, at a time that seem to be coming back in stock, that's generally an indication that a return came back to the warehouse and that company is drop shipping that item. Okay, not always, but it's a pretty good tell that might be the case. And the thing is, like, how can I, as a retailer, as part of a distribution network, how can I vouch for the quality of that drop shipped item? I have to take it from the supplier. I have to take them at their word that they're sending out brand new merchandise when I'm paying for a brand new wig on behalf of my customers who have also paid for a brand new wig. And so it is infuriating on a couple levels when they recirculate returns. And because they do this, it forced me as a retailer who sold those products into a position where I had to play Sherlock Holmes to figure out what the heck was actually going on. Right? Like, is this the supplier or is this the customer? And in fact, in some cases, those suppliers would force me to ask those questions of the customer, or else I wouldn't be able to return the wig even if I accepted it from the customer. So you could see that the whole situation when it comes to returns, when you are a drop shipper of name brand wigs, is full of friction. A lot of friction between you and the supplier, and friction between you and your own customer. And from my point of view, both of those are a big no-no. But particularly when it comes to that relationship between your customer, the person who's ultimately buying this product, and you, that's like sacred territory. You don't want that friction there for that reason, right? You don't necessarily want to make returns too easy, right? You want to at least get some information from it. Like, I like to ask, why are you returning this? Like, as a basic question. And it doesn't have to be a long story. It's basically just, was it the color? Was it the cut? Easy stuff. But back in the day, I would have to ask a lot more questions, and some of them would be pretty freaking invasive. And that's because some of the suppliers literally wanted the answers of those questions. Like, what products did you use on it? How often did you wash it? Things like that, because any hole that I could poke into their story was supposed to be a reason for me to say not to return it. I don't have to do that anymore because I control my own supply. We are ordering these brand new. We do not recirculate returns. In fact, now that I don't sell name brand wigs, we have put all of those returns into a storage unit. They've not even been touched. They're not even in our warehouse. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. I have a bunch of options, but I'm going to deal with just selling the new stuff for now. We got plenty of inventory, so I don't even have to think about it at this time. I'll just defer that for another day. Now, things are really easy. You can just use that return portal and your return is basically processed. But if we see that it's in transit and it's on our way to us, we start processing it then. We don't even wait for it to arrive sometimes, and that flexibility to be that much faster and that much more compassionate towards our customers is a godsend. It's a game changer from my perspective. We migrated websites on the fly. I did all that coding and all of the transfer of data, but I will say that we had quite a bit of help getting products listed because there weren't a lot of our own self-made products listed at this time. But it was insane getting that ready for prime time and migrated over to a new instance of the store that I owned that wasn't in his ownership. I basically launched a business, like a whole business from scratch. From like, I want to say April on. That has been a work in progress. So if you're like, what happened to their Zendesk? What happened to this? Why is this different? Why is their URL so wacky? This is why this has been happening. I'm going to mix these two foundations together. This is Makeup Forever Ultra HD. So this is the Y205, which has a yellow base, gold base. And this is Y235, which is 2 levels darker. And it also has a slight yellow base. I'm mixing them together. You would think, why don't you just get the Y225, which is like in between this, or the Y215. I've tried. They're a little bit too yellow. I find that these aren't quite as yellow, and so when I mix them together, it's a little bit less harsh. Let's talk about the jobs a little bit. So the first job that I got this year was in January. I worked for a government contractor called Bixel. Wonderful people at Bixel. I have nothing but positive things to say about the caliber of the people that they hire, what the vibe is in the company. Like, they're just genuinely very nice people over there, and they tend to hire really nice people. So again, that was a great experience. If it was such a great experience, why'd I leave? Because I got offered a job that paid $30,000 more. I gave Bixel an opportunity to match it. They did not feel inclined at the time because I was very new. I had only been on the job for 3 months. And, you know, even though I'd done a lot on a lot of different contracts during that time period, I mean, it is a lot to ask of a new employer to switch up the contract midway flow like that. So I get it. It doesn't offend me. And I'm still in contact with some of the folks there. If they have any questions ever about any of the project work I did, I'm open to them reaching out, because it doesn't overlap with what I'm doing at IDC. Like a little bit of that lighter foundation in some of these red spots. So that was Bixel. I did a bunch of different things, wore a bunch of different hats, and then got the offer from IDC, and I was like, all right, cool. Let's do that now. Using my finger to kind of warm that up. This, by the way, is IT Cosmetics Concealer. I believe it's Bye Bye Under Eye. Yeah, Bye Bye Under Eye. And I'm just using a brush. This brush is from Sonia G. It's the Jumbo Blender. It's really nice and soft, which is why I like to use it around my eyes. If I want to go real soft, instead of contouring my nose, I literally use concealer to invert that. So my natural skin is actually the part that is acting as the contour. It's a really soft approach. I'm not going to do that on my cheeks though, because I like a nice carved out, chiseled sort of cheek. Okay. I'm not going real heavy here. Just trying to mimic where the light would go. Alright, so time to set this a little bit. So I'm going to take some of this Pat McGrath Blurring Powder in Light with this cheek brush. I feel like I need to put just a smidge more concealer over here on this little blemish. Luckily there should be enough on the brush still. There we go. Having fun with some contour. This is my Fenty Amber 1, cheeks out. Got a dry sponge. And I actually like doing my makeup here, like I'm doing right now, in front of the webcam, because it makes it so much easier to contour. Have you ever tried that? I don't want to drag it over that blemish. It's also another reason why I didn't want to use a wet sponge, because I know I'm just gonna mess that up. Don't worry. I'm definitely planning to do something more with this. It's not going to be this splotchy. It does look kind of crazy though. Okay, so yeah, I'm very happy. We've launched over 100 new styles. We migrated websites. we've still got an affiliate program. We're still doing all the things we were doing before. We're just, you know, doing them on a site that is basically the baby of both the old CysterWigs and HairKittyKitty websites. And my hope is that it's just going to keep getting better and better in 2023. Now I'm going to take this puppy and kind of drag this up and blend up. Remember, it's got a little bit of foundation still on it. In this case, I'm dragging down. Gotta get that blend on. Now I'm gonna do some blusher. I use this palette still all the time. I still haven't hit pan. So that's good value for money as far as I'm concerned. This is the Smashbox Kelly Kisses Highlight and Blush Palette. I don't even know if they still make this, but I hope they do because it's really good. Let's see, what cheek brush do I want to use? I'll use this one. This one's really nice and small. Let's do a little bit. Oh, I don't know what I want to do first. It's tricky. I think I'm actually gonna do this kind of suntan-y color. Oh, that's fun. I'm gonna take my finger to this kind of lighter highlighter and just kind of dab it on with my finger. Maybe a little bit here. That's cute. Just blend, blend, blend. When in doubt, blend more. Time to curl the old lashes. Using just my tweezer man, made for round eyes because I have very, very big round eyes. And that may sound like a humble brag, but really it's a pain in the butt because it's hard to find tweezers that actually allow me to curl my entire lash line all at the same time. Sometimes you just gotta keep playing with it till you get it to look the way you want it to look. And I'll still mess around with it before I put mascara on. Till then, it's time to contour my eyes. And I want to use a kind of special palette. This is the Pat McGrath Mothership. I own all of them. I own all of the motherships. It's almost a painful admission because they're so overpriced. But my God, they last forever. If you take care of them, they don't deteriorate the same way most makeup does. I mean, you have to keep monitoring it, but it doesn't expire in the same way. The high quality stuff really lasts. And so this is one of my newer acquisitions. You know, that's how I justify those to myself. This is, what is this one? Oh, thank you, honey.
See what you think of that?
What
I can
is
always
it?
adjust the sweetness.
What is it?
It's a modified Vincenza.
Oh, shout out to Vincenza from IDC. She's still a genius. Her idea was lemonade with whipped cream flavored vodka. It is so good.
Since we don't have any actual lemonade, that's limoncello, lime juice, key lime juice, and lemon juice diluted with water. So yeah, it's basically the same thing and much more key lime flavored.
Well, nice. Thank you, honey.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you, thing.
Okay, back onto the thing. I've already played around with it a little bit. It's got so much sparkle in it. I'm gonna go crazy because we're going to a holiday light display at the Georgia Botanical Gardens, State of Georgia Botanical Gardens. It's like 15 minutes from me. And so I'm just gonna sparkle it up. We're gonna be sparkly. Gonna start with this light shade. And this shade, what are you called, friend? Does it actually say? I know it does. This is the Skin Tense Glow is what this color is called. I'm gonna put this all over my lid even though it's shimmery. You can see why I primed this with a little bit of powder and concealer. This is not a particularly opaque shimmer, and it's like micro fine. So I may eventually have to dust some of it off my crease just so that way it doesn't pool in there. But this stuff, if you prime it right, isn't gonna do that either way. It's another benefit of buying like the crazy premium stuff, like the Natasha Denona stuff. That stuff's great too. I like Huda's eyeshadow, like it's really nice and buttery, you know, those Italian buttery eyeshadow palettes. But if they're too buttery, they break apart, and I've ordered multiple Huda kits where they literally just disintegrated. But I love eyeshadow. I could talk eyeshadow all day. That brush that I used for the sweeping, that was a Sonia G Worker 3. It's got a really nice small well, it's not small, it's like a medium-sized head, but it's got kind of a flat-ish ovoid ferrule. So it's nice for sweeping. It's not very dense, which is really great for shimmers and whatnot. Just know that when you use any of these palettes, though, your brushes are going to be covered in glitter. It takes a while to get it all off. Just be patient with it. I use multiple things to clean my brushes, so just kind of experiment and see what's best. But just know you're going to get a lot of glitter, so you may even want to set aside some of your brushes specifically for playing with shimmers and glitters. In my case, I just clean them a lot because I'm acne prone, PCOS, you know, that whole thing. And so I have to make sure that my brushes are meticulously clean between every single wash. Same with my sponges. Oh yeah. And I know a lot of you are in the same boat too. You either have sensitive skin or you're acne prone. It's a thing. It's rough. Okay, so the next brush I'm going to use though is a Wayne Goss brush. It's a slightly smaller, fluffier, but same flat ovoid kind of ferrule. This is the 18, and I'm going to use this to start building my crease. I'm going to get progressively smaller with the brush heads as I build out the crease. That's because tonight I want a nice deep crease, and I'm just kind of tapping that flat edge at kind of an angle like that. Very light pressure because these palettes are so pigmented. You do not need to push hard at all, which is great if you are like me and you have aging eyes, right? Like, I don't want to look young, but I also don't want to accentuate the saggy, draggy, baggy parts. Like, I just want to make sure that everything looks its best. And that's why sometimes you need to aim a little higher than your natural crease. You can see my natural crease looks droopy, like when I relax my eye. You know, I got a tiny little bit of hooding, a little bit more on this side. I need to even that out a little bit. And then on top of that, I want my eyes to look really nice and open. So I'm gonna relax my eye, and I'm gonna start right above my pupil. Okay, I'm gonna do the same to the other side. This one is called Rosewood Romantique. It's this thing here. I love rosewood colors. I'm going over the exact same area. And then a little bit down. Start applying some glitter. It's gonna be good. Let me see, what do I want to work with? Let's start with this dark one. That's called Bronze Devotion. Okay. Now if I want it to be really, really heavy, oh my god, look at that. I would have used my finger, but instead I'm applying it with the brush and blotting it with my finger because I'm going to get a little bit less pigment if I use the brush. And I'm glad I made that move because this is definitely more of like a foil. And I don't know if I want to go that heavy with it. Okay, so I'm going to use my finger for this. Oh, look at that. Okay. See that I'm not taking it all the way to the corner? Boy, that's shiny. Wow. Oh my goodness. I don't even think I need to reapply for this side. That is so pigmented. Wow. I think I need a lighter color right away. So I'm gonna go with this kind of rose goldy color. This is called Blitz Venus. Oh, I feel very drag right now. Oh my, okay, well, give me a moment. Then this Astral Lilac Aura. So I'm using these two colors down here. This is the Astral Lilac Aura. That's pretty. It's very sparkly. It's like fairy makeup. I figured while I'm putting on my makeup here in the home stretch, I should talk about a few more of the personal things that happened to me in 2022. If you're at all interested in hearing more about any of these topics in more detail, let me know in the comments. I had a tummy tuck at the beginning of 2022, around April, and within about a week, the incision opened up almost completely. I ended up in the ER and spent Easter Sunday in the hospital, like literally was admitted overnight. And that was a whole ordeal. And even now I'm still dealing with complications due to a botched tummy tuck. I went to a triple board certified aesthetic plastic surgeon based out of Atlanta. Didn't matter, still ended up with complications, and my scar literally still hurts every single day. I'm still in a faja. I am still dealing with a ton of swelling, so I'm kind of waiting to see how it ends up resolving, but I may end up making a video about it either way, just to kind of educate people about some of the risks that plastic surgeons like to downplay when they sell you on these surgeries. Once again, I'm going to dive really deeply into the too much information category and let you know about another ongoing health issue I've been dealing with, just in case it's something that you can relate to, or you know someone who can relate to this. If it's something that you think that it would be beneficial for me to open up about more in future video content, just let me know. Again, I'm open to it. But I have had a long, fraught history with constipation, as you're probably aware if you've been following me for a long time, and it got dramatically worse after I had gastric sleeve surgery. Well, in 2022, I had a bunch of tests, including some very funny tests that involved me, pooing radioactive goo on an X-ray toilet with a bunch of doctors in the room. That was super fun. I can't say it without wanting to crack up laughing every time, which is why my voice just changed, because it was just such a ridiculous thing to go through. But long story short, after that and a SITS test and a whole bunch of other things, I found out that I have a really severe case of chronic slow transit constipation. I have diverticulae, and I also have a pretty significant rectocele, and basically all three of those things require some kind of surgical intervention. It's just a matter of which one to address first. And of course, my doctors are, interested to know if I would be open to a stoma. The answer at this time is hell no, I don't want a stoma. But it's something where if this condition continues to deteriorate, I will try to keep an open mind, weighing my quality of life. But for right now, I still want to investigate my options. I still want to know what can be done. And so I will keep you posted. But yeah, I'm dealing with some pretty horrendous health issues related to my digestive tract at the moment. I also ended up catching CVID in October. My husband and I both did. And when I recovered, I didn't actually get that sick. In full disclosure, I just ended up getting really tired, and I had chest pains that just came on with a quickness and then didn't really fully go away. So that's something that I talked about in the first video of this two-parter, and it's something that I'm still actively seeking out. But I have had an echocardiogram and a couple of other tests, and my heart mechanically looks great. My doctor was very complimentary of my self-care in that regard, cardiovascularly, but definitely still need to keep investigating to see what the heck's going on with that, but it's definitely kind of a CVID hangover. I'm still struggling with how to get into a rhythm of making content with the day job and all the work that I'm doing on the website for HairKittyKitties. So I'm definitely very appreciative of everybody and your patience while I try to get this show on the road. You can probably see, if you're paying attention to the development of the HairKittyKitty website, that it's something that I'm working on pretty diligently. It's an ongoing process. I plug away at it every single weekend. My weekends are dedicated to improving the website and programming sales and things like that. So we don't have a big marketing team. It's literally just me and my husband and Kathleen and a few people who help us. So we always appreciate when you also help us get the word out, because we are not a big company, and that's one of the things that we struggle to find the budget for, is literally helping with our marketing. So thank you for that in advance if you spread the word about HairKittyKitty. So thank you for hanging out with me. I hope that you have a spectacular new year. I hope 2023 is much better than the preceding years of this decade. Hopefully it's all uphill from here. We'll see. But I wish everyone much success, happiness, health, all that good stuff. And we'll see you in 2023. Bye, everybody.